Okay, consciously turning the attention inward, noticing the tissues, noticing the bones, noticing the weight in your body, feeling sensation of weight in different parts of your body. Are there certain parts that are feeling weight or gravity more than other parts? And eventually, we feel gravity less and less in a sense. We feel gravity pull on us when we're out of alignment. So if I make it kind of obvious, if I'm leaning and really kind of out of alignment, then I really feel gravity in the muscles. They're having to hold me up against gravity. So obviously these muscles are kicking in, these muscles are kicking in. And so I'm having to fight gravity all the time that I'm here. I can't hang out and fighting gravity continuously because I have to because of this angle. But of course, most of the time it's not that obvious. I might come to more of a straight position, but my head might be slightly, as most of us have this sliding here forward. And it might be, for some people, it's quite obvious. But for us, we may not notice it ourselves. If I'm the tiniest bit like this or like this, that means the gravity is always working vertically or straight to the center of the earth. Straight lines, an infinite number of straight lines, right to the center of the earth. So if there's any part of my body that's not completely vertical with those infinite lines of vertical gravity, then my muscles have to be holding me up, or in other words, fighting against gravity. So as we get closer and closer to being pristinely vertical, and generally speaking, that's bone on top of bone, especially the vertebrae, then we don't feel that pull. And in a sense, we can get away from the feeling of gravity because gravity isn't pulling on our tissues. Now, of course, we're still in the field of gravity, but if we're aligned and relaxed and releasing the muscles and tissues, the bones are taking the gravity, but the bones are made for that. And if our bones are vertical, the weight goes vertically through those bones. And so it's not felt. Of course, if our bones are not vertical, then gravity is working through them at an angle, and of course, pulling on the tissues, and the tissues on top here are having to contract and squeeze to keep you up. But if the bones are vertically aligned, gravity works purely straight through, and the muscles can just release. And again, the nice colorful imagery we often say is the muscles hang from the bones, or like soft rubber, just hanging from the bones. But that's only okay if the bones are totally vertical, pristine. If I'm angled and I'm letting the muscles hang from the bones, then that's like pulling me even more. And there's going to be many muscles that can never really release and relax because they're having to hold me up against gravity. So that's a whole kind of chapter, a whole process that could be part of our standing practice. What parts am I really feeling gravity? And so that can be a whole avenue of exploration is through that lens. Are there parts of my body where I'm really feeling gravity? And tune in more, and if you can, even check in a mirror, maybe there's a part of that body there or around that neighborhood of the body that's askew, that's not lined up. For a lot of people, of course, everything's tight here, and they're literally holding themselves up. Their muscles are brackets holding themselves up against gravity. It's continuous strain on their energy, it's continuous tension. Some people have it the other way. So can we truly let the spine dangle vertical, and then also the hips, the hip cage. Can we let that purely hang? So that's not hanging, purely hang. Now we do have to use the legs, the thighs, legs, but we refine that too eventually, where the legs become empty in the midst of that exertion, like the furnace pipes I've talked about, or the PCV pipes, they're empty. And because they're bent, and this is hanging, muscularly we do have to use the legs, but we learn to empty or purify the muscle efforting. It becomes more refined, more empty, more clarified, more clear. And a different kind of strength, a fascial strength. It's like, again, the outside of a pipe. It's very solid. So that develops. So I really can hang the hips. So using that kind of theme, what parts of my body am I holding up against gravity? And if I can notice parts that I'm holding in or holding up against gravity, can I align that area of the body skeletally so it becomes more truly vertical, so that those tissues, instead of holding on or bracing, can just hang like soft rubber, like melted rubber. So if I go through some areas specifically, let's actually just spend a moment with the arms themselves, because maybe we can, it might be relatively easy and straightforward, perhaps, to let the arms dangle. And can we become more conscious of the aspect of the muscles just hanging, almost dripping off the bones of the arms, the tissues dripping down with gravity. So it's almost like the muscles and the skin are sliding off the bones. That's also the colorful way of saying weight underside, right? Weight underside, it's very much the same thing, but just kind of a more colorful way, or maybe a kind of a dynamic, energetically dynamic way of approaching it. But it creates the same thing as weight underside. So letting the tissues and the muscles just kind of either hang off the bones of the arms or slide off. Now, that may or may not be something a person can tune into right away, but if it is, it feels very good. So as I do that, it's a very pleasant, pleasurable feeling and quality. It is really a nice releasing quality. Like, oh, I thought I was relaxed before. Oh, there's some relaxation. Talk about this for a little bit, just for a second. So you could, if you want to come out of that, that's fine too. So that is one of the physical processes that we do in Tai Chi. One of the cultivations, part of the cultivation of the body. And we say the Tai Chi body is not a normal person's body. It's a completely different creature, completely different creature. And here's an example of this. Here's a specific example of that. And also why it takes a long time, a lot of cultivation, because it is so completely different than normal. Completely different body, energetically and physically. So in Tai Chi, we want to create and cultivate, develop the tissues separating from the bones. And so I'm talking literally, like physically, where the muscles and the tissues fall away from the bones or lose their grip, where the muscles and the tissues become not only softer, looser in a sense. There isn't that wrapped tightness around the bones and the joints. So literally, physically, part of the transformation in the cultivation of the body is the tissues lift away from the bones and become, in a sense, liberated from the bones and become more free and mobile, like they're floating off the bones. So just maybe a visual that maybe gives a visual idea or quality, but that's technically what we're working towards. And the arms might be an access point for that, might be easier than more the heavier part of the body, the core of the body where there's so much tissue. The arms might be a good access point for that. So as we hang out as best we can, verticalize as best we can. And again, let's just again focus on the arms. Let the weight, let the gravity pull the arms and hands straight down. Let the natural combined weight of the arms and hands pull the shoulders straight down. So it should be a little opening, releasing the shoulder joints. And let's just again accentuate that, stay with that. Let those arms become heavy, but specifically the tissues of the arms. The bones stay light and kind of porous. You can think of, because bones are porous, so become aware of the porousness of the bones in the arms. It's kind of like they're solid, but they're also light. They're porous. And let the heavy, crude, dense muscles hang off those light, sharp bones. So hang off the bones like soft melted rubber, or pour off the bones, tissues, just sliding off the bones of the arms, right down through the fingers. Even the muscles and tissues of the fingers become looser and slide down off the finger bones a little bit. And whatever, if any kind of quality you get from that, for example, I feel really pleasant warmth and tingling and softening, whatever level of sensation you have there that feels liberating or feels good, translocate that to the rest of the body or a part of the body. So I'm transferring intentionally that strong emanating quality that I feel very strongly in my arms. Now I'm transferring that to the rest of my body. I'm giving the other muscles in the rest of the body a hint, a message, an example of what they can do. So the influence of what's happening specifically with my arm muscles, because I've been focusing on them, that can influence the rest of the body, the rest of the tissues. And see what, scan the body and see what parts of your body are really contrastedly different than that soft, warm, or hanging quality. So there's probably a part, maybe more than one part, but one part that is glaringly different from that soft, emanating, hanging, dripping quality. And so send that energy, that quality to that specific area. Let the bones become more aligned in that area, more verticalized in that area. So there's a greater chance that the muscles can just release and can just hang with gravity. If we don't, here my muscles can never release and hang because they're having to hold my body up from gravity. So let that help inform the angle of the bones. So the muscles, you have a greater chance of being able just to slide off vertically and just hang and release rather than having to hold the body up. And as always, the out breath can be a little extra allowance of release. In particular, one area for pretty much all of us to really focus on is the lower back, the sacrum area, where these muscles become shortened because they're chronically tight. So whatever pleasant sensations, releasing sensations that you have tracked and anchored in your awareness, translocate that to the lower back, the lower vertebrae, the sacrum area, and notice and appreciate what happens in that area, what changes. So the influence, have that influence affect the lower back, the back of the hips, and even more on the out breath. And even though we're using the legs per se, see if you can translocate that quality and those feelings to the thighs, or where you're feeling a lot of physical muscular effort, whether it's the thighs or the calves or the shins. Translocate that quality to that part, to the legs. And so even though we're standing, in the midst of the standing, we can release, and even the muscles in the legs, the heavy muscles in the legs, we can transform them. They can be released, they can hang, they can open, they can slide off. They can slide off the bones. Releasing even more with the out breath. And then just globally, as much as the body, not every part the same, not every part equally, but sending the attention out globally throughout the body, muscles just sliding off bones. Don't have to worry about falling, because the bones, the job of the bones, they're very well equipped to withstand gravity and to be vertical. That's what they're designed for. So we don't have to worry about falling or slumping. The bones stay very upright. They're designed to do that. The muscles are yin. Let them become very, very yin. Let them slip off the bones, slide off the bones. Might sound a little weird, but like a very well cooked meat, a roast, so well cooked, so moist, it slides off the bone. If we notice any slumping, any deterioration of the vertical structure, we have to bring a little bit of attention back to the yongness, the yangness of the bones, the uprightness of the bones, the alignment, the vertical alignment of the bones. So we might need to bring a little bit of energy back to that awareness with the bones if we notice any collapsing or drooping. Bones are very sharply upright, but the muscles are just sliding off. The abdomen as well. Again, lower back. All the muscles on the bones just slide off. And even to some extent, as best as you can allow, even the muscles in the legs dripping down, sliding down. But at the same time, bones completely vertical. Now let's take this into a little bit of movement so that we don't isolate it into an experience of just stationary. And then we lose it as soon as we do any movement because our experience of it is isolated to just stationary. So we want to take this into moving. And again, one of the simplest moves is parting horse's mane in place. Then eventually with stepping, of course, but probably one of the simplest moves other than, you know, any other stationary movement, commencement. A parting horse's mane is a very nice shape and movement to work with. So don't go too far and don't go too fast. Stay mainly with this feeling that we're getting in the standing today, the theme of what we're doing in standing. So in other words, take this position here as our new standing position. And then when we're doing a little bit of movement, a little bit of parting horse's mane, we just happen to be in transit, but it's the same as a standing. It's just like we're standing, but we're on a platform that's moving, but we're still doing our own standing work that we were just doing. So how much can I release the muscles? How much can I allow them to hang off the bones like soft, warm rubber? Or even how much can I let them just slide off, let the tissue slide off those bright, clear, white bones? So any drooping, we have to give a bit more energy to that alignment, to the skeleton, to the bones. And then remember to droop, hang the bones again, or hang the muscles again. Let the muscles flow down. So as long as I have that uprightness, clarity of that vertical uprightness, just release and let those muscles slide off, including the abdomen area, lower back. And again, the coming back, the shifting weight back, coming back, that often is the time and the place to really get these things back, whatever principle we're working on. The shifting back is often the potent time to really get the qualities of whatever qualities we're working on at the time, to really get the principles and the feelings, to really reconjure them up, to regain them, to re-solidify them, to reacquaint ourselves with those feelings, sensations. And how much can we keep that as we go into the forward movement? Shifting the weight back is, again, a chance to kind of recoup and refamiliarize. And then how much can I keep that as I go forward? So coming back is almost like another, it's a recharging or another opportunity to generate and energize those qualities and feelings. And then keep that as much as I can as I go into the forward movement, and notice what you lose and when you lose it. I get a chance to really get them back, especially on the retracing back, shifting back. Now, as we do this, we'll stay with this very simple movement so we can keep with it as much as we can, keep with the qualities and concentration. But even as we, and because it is a simple move, then now we can kind of imagine ourselves going through our day, doing various activities, opening a door, sitting at the computer, reminding ourselves, imagine and feel yourself in your day with this quality, this feeling. And imagine yourself reminding yourself to hang the muscles, let the muscles just slip off the bones. Our job is to keep those bones very aligned, Keep the structure very completely vertical. And then how much can I just have the muscles do nothing except be yin? Slide off the bones, pour down. So imagine and feel yourself going through your day, different activities. And imagine yourself remembering to bring this quality into your activities and to work with these practices in the midst of everyday normal activities. And maybe this is a slightly more complex move. So if we're ready to a bit more of a challenge, still stay stationary, not footwork for now, but then you want to take this into footwork as well, stepping. With some fresh knees. Hang the muscles, release the muscles, completely release those muscles. Let them just drop with gravity. You'll be okay because your bones naturally are meant to deal with gravity, especially when they're completely vertical. So the muscles I can just completely let go. Completely let them go. Let gravity take them completely. Let gravity have its way with the muscles. And the bones will do what they do with gravity. They align with gravity and are designed to work right in through gravity vertically. Each millimeter of movement is another opportunity to hang the muscles, release the muscles. Let go, let go, let go. Each millimeter of movement is another opportunity to let go to a greater degree. Like being weightless in outer space or being in water, the muscles just lift off the bones. The tissues just pour away. The muscles just let go of their grip. The muscles float off the bones, just like if we were in water or in space. Letting those muscles just release and lift. Completely, 100%. Release and lift off the bones. Muscles pour down or lift and release away from the bones. Okay, and then we'll just finish with some standing and breathing. Now, ideally, it'd be really good to do a set or at least a mini set and take these qualities and feelings into that set. And so you get a chance to have the entire body opened and massaged through a range of movement and postures. So coming to that verticalness, the skeleton is hyper vertical. The muscles are exaggeratingly soft and released. %, vertical angle with the bones. 100% release and let go of the muscles. Let the breath be deep and natural, deep in the abdomen. And a little deeper breath in through the nose, a little longer breath out through the mouth, and let the hands actually drop. Again, feel the muscles even more now. The arms are hanging, sliding right off the bones of the arms, right off the bones of the fingers. And let that influence the muscles in the legs. Muscles in the legs slide off the bones of the legs, right to the feet. Big breath in and out, gently rock out. How do you feel?
A perfect class, because I have realized over, especially since I started Tai Chi, it took me classes to realize just how tense I am, because I started to be aware of it versus just pain, right? But first started, that forward pattern and the gravity on muscles, like how much that has played a part. Like that was a very different way of me understanding that, because I'm not vertical much of the time, and to have all that work to be muscles and not be vertical is, yeah, it kind of shifted how I understand how I'm holding myself. Contraction, that I'm beginning having moments of release. And so that's a really good, it's good awareness. Just remind myself around that. And when we first started, it was almost like I could feel, when you talked about gravity, it was like I could feel the pull on that.
Good.
Places.
Good.
Whoa. Yeah, that was an interesting, and then to start to explore releasing it and aligning and letting the muscles hang. And again, because my whole body has been contracted, I think, for decades. I thought it was just my pelvis, but no, it's everywhere.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. And that's the human condition.
Yes. Oh.
And that's why the Tai Chi body is completely different than the normal human body, because the human condition is what you just described.
I have a lot more to learn, a lot more to practice, is what I realized. Yeah.
Yeah, the really, really neat thing is that there's always more we can release. There's always more refinement. There's always more that we can develop and change. There's no end. And so
no end.
Yeah. And so we can always work with it and always get more into it.
The idea that the bones are hard, but they're porous and they're light, and the muscles have that density, that was also kind of, I heard that differently, I think.
It flips things around, right?
Yeah. I'm going to have to process that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Good. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your week.
You too.
See you Saturday.
Okay.